It honestly feels like it's every other day that I'm coming on here telling you guys about another outer planet that's transiting into a new sign or ingressing into a new sign. And that's because around this time of year, that is actually what's happening. We're having so much movement in our outer planets, which are more collective planets according to some traditions of astrology, and one that I believe in as well, that these are planets that rule, especially the last three, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, are very much ruling the collective rather than us personally. But obviously, because we are a part of the collective, we're going to be feeling the changes as well. But when we see them move, because they don't move as often as the other planets do either, Uranus moves about every 7 years. When they make a move, it is kind of a shift in the collective that we're seeing. And so we're able to see this more in mundane astrology or in astrology of worldly events when these planets make a move, which then kind of tells you that things are really changing on a very collective level. We're entering into completely new paradigms. Uranus, Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, and Pluto last year, they're all moving into new signs, and that means that there is a shift happening in the collective. So Uranus is going to be moving into Gemini on July 7th, 2025. He'll stay there till May 22nd of 2033. So for about 8 years, we're going to have this energy of Uranus in Gemini, which is going to feel very different than Uranus in Taurus, where Taurus is a grounded earth sign. Gemini is the airiest of the air signs. It's the first air sign, and it's a lot about information, connection, communication, perception, learning. And so Uranus coming into Gemini is just going to unlock a very different aspect of our collective. And as I mentioned with the Jupiter and Cancer video, everything is moving into fire and air. So there is this massive uprising of masculine energy collectively. One of the most interesting things, in my opinion, about this is how it correlates to some historical aspects of our world, but really especially for the United States, because the US has a natal Uranus in Gemini. So this is going to be a Uranus return for the US, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. And I'm actually planning on doing like a whole separate video about that. Even though I don't do mundane astrology as much, I feel like this is the time to do it if you're ever going to do it. But before that, I really want us to understand what Uranus is and his archetypal core. And the best way for me to help you guys understand that is through the myths that are behind these gods. Uranus rules breakthroughs that seemingly come out of nowhere, right? It's awakening, enlightenment, being unique, rebellion, innovation, foresight. This is a place for visions and visionaries as well. He can often bring this like shocking disruption that seems to come out of nowhere. But why do we associate these sorts of things with Uranus in the first place? And I think when you really start understanding the myths behind these planets, you really get to know them in a different way and understand kind of the different aspects of what they're bringing to the table. And I've done this with a lot of different placements, but recently with Jupiter, and Jupiter actually plays into Uranus's myth a lot, right? So we'll talk about that. What I always find interesting too about the planets is that oftentimes there are aspects of their astronomical features that feed into their astrological features. So with Jupiter, I kind of talked about that. And then with Uranus, Uranus is the only planet that rotates or spins on its side. So once again, bringing in that uniqueness, bringing in that innovation and that rebellion, being different than the other signs or the other planets in that way. Uranus was discovered in 1781, and this is actually a really important time for history, yes, but also for human design. According to human design, this is when projectors came onto the planet. So human design projectors are the youngest energy type, and starting 2027, they are supposed to be entering or being ushered into the space of the leaders in a sense. And so Uranus and projectors have a very special connection, and this is actually something that I'm going to unpack in a different video because it's very important for projectors to understand that about themselves. But regardless, this is when projectors came into the world, And it's also when, according to human design, we changed from the 7-centered beings, so having the 7 chakra system from the Indians, which is a brilliant understanding of our energetic bodies that they discovered thousands of years ago, which is now backed up by science that says that there are actually increased or big nerve bundles where we have those chakras, which is absolutely mind-blowing. But this is when, according to human design, we move from being 7-centered beings into 9-centered beings. And it gave us the ability to kind of evolve beyond our animal instincts. And this is very interesting because it has a lot to actually do with the myth of Uranus as well. Now, when I say Uranus and his myth, the archetype or the god, but he's not really a god, he's a titan, and then there's a slight difference, that is associated most with Uranus is not Uranus. It's actually Prometheus. The story of Prometheus is really interesting because he was a titan, and he was the one who stole fire from the gods and gave it to humans. In a sense, he was the one who gave humans the ability to develop a higher consciousness and not kind of stay in the cycle of nature like other sentient beings are in. And so with this comes great responsibility, and I think that we can say that in some ways we've really done amazing things with this responsibility, and in other ways we really haven't even began to see the potential. And I think that's kind of part of the path of stealing that fire from the gods, is that inevitably it was never going to be used always in its highest potential. I believe when a planet gets discovered, and I would say some psychological astrologers believe the same thing, is that that's when it came into awareness on a collective level, whereas before it was laying underneath the level of awareness collectively. And when it's discovered, it kind of becomes a part of our collective now more consciously. The fact that he is the one who brought that potential to human beings, and the fact that when he was discovered, that's when, according to human design, that's when we got this ability to have these extra 2 centers that places a bigger responsibility on what we choose to do with our lives and our knowings and our consciousness is really, really intriguing in my opinion. And Ra talks about how we were Saturnian bodies then, and now we have Uranian bodies. And over the last 250 years, we've been trying to understand how to work with this sense of evolved consciousness. When they were making humans, they did not want them to have the same gifts as a god, because then they would be godlike. And so Prometheus was a titan, and he actually stole the fire from the gods, which Jupiter was infuriated with, and he's made Prometheus suffer. And Prometheus suffered until he was saved by Chiron, the wounded healer who sacrificed his own life in order to save Prometheus. In this process, we understand that there is a price to pay for Uranian knowledge. That is to say that there is no coming to consciousness without pain. The more we understand, the more we know, the more we have a responsibility to do something with that consciousness. This actually is really something that I've felt in my life. And I have some Aquarian tendencies. My son's in the 11th house. I have Saturn in Aquarius. And actually people with Saturn in Aquarius or Saturn-Uranus conjunctions tend to actually be some of the most Uranian people, actually, because you'd think that with Saturn it would inhibit that, but it actually aligns them very closely and their morality a lot with Uranian concepts. When I healed my chronic pain last year after 10 years, one of the things I realized was that I was not living up to the amount of consciousness that I had, and that was resulting in my body revolting. And this is just like one of the many things, right? But that's one of the things I realized. And once I started kind of aligning myself and using what is oftentimes seen as the antidote to that suffering of consciousness, which is giving back creatively. It's kind of like the opposite if you think about Uranus ruling the 11th house because of Aquarius, instead opposing the 5th house, which is ruled by Leo traditionally. This was a huge part of me healing my chronic pain, actually. So I definitely believe in this, but you definitely don't have to. Take what resonates, right? I want to read something from Liz Green's book on Uranus, which I highly recommend. I recommend you read every single book from Liz Green because that's what I do. That's what I do. She says what Uranus does within us is to look at our own human nature and say human nature in its instinctual form isn't good enough. Something could be changed. We could be different. We could be better. But whether Uranus swings to the right or left, it always carries an ideology, a vision of social perfection that declares we will get rid of all the inferior, dark, barbaric elements in human nature and create a perfect society in which human beings are godlike and without flaw. When I talked about my Pluto in Aquarius video that I did, I mentioned that this can be the downside of Aquarius sometimes, is that when they become so invested in their visions and their ideas of progress, they can actually become it's very similar to me like Jupiterian energy, but obviously different in that they can become very dominating and kind of exile people who don't believe in the things that they believe. And so this is kind of where we get this right versus left. Meanwhile, everybody is saying that they want peace and they want to love one another. But then when it comes to someone who's opposing them, they're like, well, they're the problem. So like, this is kind of how we fall into this cognitive dissonance, right? Like where we say we want peace and love, but then day to day, we're not really practicing that because we see people who have different ideas of progress as the enemy. And this can be problematic, right? Because it just continues that cycle of violence and anger and the opposites of love and peace. But ultimately with Uranus, it is this idea that because we were given this spark from the gods, that we can be God-like. In being God-like, being perfect, untouchable, immortal. But we know that even though our souls are immortal, us as human beings, these bodies and what we can do within this body in this lifetime is limiting. And I've talked about how that is actually what brings value to our lives, is because we have to choose something and say, no, this is what I'm going to do. And that actually brings value. And yet, oftentimes when we recognize our own limitations, there can be a suffering. There can be a difficulty with this, because ultimately, if we think about what Prometheus did, was stealing from the gods, right? He stole it. He wasn't given this fire. He stole this fire, which is why he suffered. He wanted to perfect nature. And so we can see how this really aligns with the theme of Uranus being technology and AI and all these things, because it is something that goes beyond nature. Right? We're trying to perfect what nature couldn't accomplish. We're trying to round out the imperfections of nature's edges. And meanwhile, if you look around, like our trees and all these animals, like I said, all these sentient beings, they're just very, very, very slowly evolving at the pace of nature. Whereas human beings are moving extremely fast and way beyond the pace of nature. And so in some ways, nature and Uranus are in direct conflict with one another. And this is actually why Uranus suffers, because it is going against nature. It's really interesting actually, because we talked about Prometheus, but Uranus was actually married to Gaia, and one of their children was Saturn. And so this is why Uranus's myth being linked to actually Uranus is kind of difficult to talk about at length, because the myth of Uranus is quite small, quite limited, and I'm not a master of these myths, although I would love to be at one point. So from what I understand, the myth of Uranus was cut short because he was kind of cruel to his children, and one of his children, being Saturn, was Gaia's favorite. So Saturn actually castrated Uranus and threw his dingling into the ocean. And after that, Uranus kind of disappears. He's kind of like goes into the unconscious. This kind of, to me, makes me feel like that's why these shocking disruptions and this awakening, these sudden, like these tower moments that are associated with Uranus are unsettling or disruptive or shocking. It's because Uranus kind of went away into the unconscious and he didn't really do much after he was castrated. And the fact that he was castrated by Saturn, who is the co-ruler of Uranus, is very, very interesting to me. right? It invites this understanding that within Uranus itself, there is this tension in a way, right? Between Saturn and the person he castrated, his father, and the very different realms that they rule, which is Saturn is structure and slowness in a way, and Uranus is very different, as we've discussed. So Uranus goes against this natural law that dictates the lives of all other sentient beings, and therefore it has to suffer for that. If you even think about it, like the whole field of science has become very Uranian in nature. And like I said, I have some Uranian aspects. I'm not like super Uranian, but as somebody who has some of these aspects in my chart, I have some aspects with Uranus in my chart too. The field of science has become extremely Uranian, like leaving no room for anything else. And if you even think about the making of medicine and how in a lot of ways that's bypassing the natural laws in the way that we do it now, right? Not like natural medicine, herbal medicine, but in the way that you do it now. And as you guys know, I'm a former pharmacist and I have a lot of thoughts around medications, and that's for another video. But in creating these medicines that are bypassing the natural law, we don't really understand what we've unleashed into the world, because we're trying to almost bring a sense of immortality to our mortal lives through trying to prolong things at all costs and using technology to be able to do more at all costs. So I know this is a very in-depth analysis of Uranus, but I think it's very important for us to understand as we're moving into this time where Uranus is moving into Gemini. Well, what is Gemini? Gemini is a adaptable sign, right? It's a mutable sign. It's an Aries sign. It rules communication, learning. Sometimes it can rule like transportation on a mundane level, information, it's perception. So when Uranus brings his innovative, rebellious, disruptive energy to Gemini collectively, we can see that this is going to require that we burst out of rigid thinking patterns, that we have mental flexibility and adaptability, and a very, very critical sense of discernment around the information that we're receiving, because there is going to be more ways to communicate. There is going to be even easier ways for us to communicate with someone across the world, let's say, or even air travel is something that could be affected by Uranus and Gemini, making it more efficient and being able to do things that, once again, if we were left to the laws of nature alone, we would not have the ability to do. So it's almost like this time, more than any other time, is a time to ground ourselves and really focus on connecting to somatic wisdom so that our nervous systems can really heal. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Saturn and Neptune and Aries with Uranus and Gemini, to me, is wreaking havoc on our nervous systems. And as if our nervous systems aren't already being wreaked havoc on. I don't know how to say that. I was talking to another immigrant the other day and I was just like, dude, do you always get sayings wrong? And she's like, yes. I'm like, okay, I'm just making sure it's not just me. I just go with it. I'm like, I think you get what I'm saying, right? I feel like a lot of times when I speak, I'm actually like speaking energetically and not even with my words. Because I often find that a lot of times I don't know what I'm saying, but people understand me. Okay, that was aside. Yeah, it's going to require us to really ground down in our nervous systems and to really understand how to take care of them, because the world is going to be moving so fast, and our bodies, although we have evolved in a lot of ways, especially consciously or within our consciousness, our bodies are still animals, you know? So it's like, we really need to take care of that aspect of ourselves during this time, in my opinion. So that's my biggest thing, is like, don't lose touch with that aspect of yourself, because people who have strong Uranus in their charts are great innovators, whether you like them or not. Because what happens oftentimes with Uranus is like, it's so electrified that we lose touch with the very real aspect of humanity. So like, okay, I'll give you an example with Elon Musk. Elon Musk has his sun and ascendant squaring Uranus. He has his Mars and North Node in Aquarius. So obviously he's very much, from what we've seen, very much into AI, very much into technology, very much an innovator. And yet oftentimes people are like, he's not connected at all, like humanly, like there's something missing there, you know? And this is what can happen. And another person who has a strong Uranus aspect is Hitler. So having this vision, what I read before about how it's like this idea that we can create a perfect society, right? And even with Elon Musk, that we can create this like idealized version of society where it's so technologically advanced, but in so focusing on the collective, we lose sight of the individual, the person, the sun-ruled people, the Leos, right? Like the fifth house, where it's like, what about the person? And as we move into 2027, it's like, well, this is becoming increasingly important because, as I mentioned before, this is going to be a new global frequency about the self and not systems. So systems will be breaking down, especially systems of learning institutions, which is so sad for me because growing up, all I wanted to do was teach as a professor. I wanted to be a professor so badly. And now as I've grown up, I just realized how our current system is not what it used to be. Our education system is not, it's really just about money, and it's not really about the, like, yeah, it's just, it doesn't have the same weight to it as it used to. But this is going to start rapidly breaking down, especially with Uranus and Gemini. There's going to be new ways of learning information, maybe faster ways of learning information. And so it's not about resisting the changes, right? Because the energy is going that way. That's why the planets are going there. It's like there's a forward momentum, there's a move to this kind of way, but also recognizing that it has the ability to get us so lost in the vision that we lose touch with humanity. That's the biggest thing I think that is really important for us to remember with Uranus in an air sign. That is going to really just accentuate our minds. Let's see if there's anything else I want to talk about. I'm sure there is. With any Uranus, oh, this is another thing I wanted to say too, is that Uranus is electrifying and Gemini is very much like a nervous energy, just as it is. So once again, bringing in that idea that it could be really increasing like our anxiety, and how do we then kind of combat that so we can get the best of Uranus and Gemini, which is that innovation and being able to think outside of the box and to find new ways to learn and receive information in a way that is going to actually expand your skills and knowledge and really bring a sense of community and connection. I think the biggest thing is going to be that it's going to help us think differently, see the world from different perspectives, stop thinking from these old outdated structures, but it's going to bring fast change. So we have to be willing to embrace the unknowingness, the unexpected of what Uranus and Gemini can bring. And the best way that I know how to do that is by meditation. It's by somatic tools. It's by understanding, using astrology and human design and tarot to connect deeper with yourself so that when things are changing, you know where you stand versus where the collective is trying to push you to go if you don't want to actually go there. But this is going to be a lot of intellectual growth, a lot of mental stimulation, a lot of, curiosity in the collective realm, different ways of communicating, all the things that I mentioned. I'm going to make another video, like I said, about Uranus being, the US having our Uranus return, because in history, it's very interesting. The way that I look at astrology is that we look at patterns, right? So we see that when this planet was in the sign, these sorts of things happen. Doesn't mean they're going to happen again, but it kind of reminds us what sort of energy is coming about. So 1775 to 1783 was the American Revolutionary War. Then 1861 to 1865 was the American Civil War. And we had Uranus and Gemini 1859 to 1871. And then World War II. We had Uranus in Gemini from 1941 to 1948, and that coincided with World War II. So it's not necessarily the harbinger of war. I really want to like table this conversation as much as possible, because I'm not trying to like bring more anxiety as I'm talking about like how we really need to ground ourselves. But I do think there is power in knowledge. It just tells us that really what Uranus is about is revolution. And I just started my Substack and I called it the Inner Revolution, because to me, that's the best use of this energy. And all of the changes that are happening right now, please follow me if you are interested in learning more about that. This can be an inner revolution for us. And if we can just focus on that, and when I talk about it in its own video, we can discuss this more deeply. But overall, I just wanted to give a understanding of Uranus and Gemini. This video is mostly about Uranus, but I hope that you learned something, and that I hope it helps you deepen your understanding of Uranus and why he rules the things that he does. And now we're going to go into the second part of this video, where we will talk about how it's going to affect each of our signs over the next 8 years-ish. If you like my content, please like and subscribe, join our community here, stay connected, follow my Substack or subscribe to my Substack, join my newsletter, all the things. If you'd like to work one-on-one with me, I'll have the link in the description below as well. And without further ado, let's get into the all signs. For Aries, Sun, Moon, and Rising, you guys have Uranus moving from your second house into your third house. Now, Uranus is innovation, rebellion, he's shocking disruptions, awakenings, wake-up calls. The fact that this is entering your third house over the next 8 years, from July 7th, 2025 until May of 2033, this is going to be changing your thought patterns, your mindsets. The way you think about the world is undergoing massive changes. And the thing about these long transits is that they take time. So you might see like this burst of an idea, like that could be another thing, like lots of ideas coming to the forefront. But then it'll be quiet for a while. And then this massive burst, right? Because it's like breakthroughs. It's not, they kind of burst out of the unconscious. And specifically for you guys, this is a sextile to your sign, as well as Saturn and Neptune in your sign, which have recently moved into Aries. So this is all good, because it's saying that these disruptions that you're having within your mindset, within your thoughts, the way you communicate is undergoing radical change, is going to actually be supportive to this new sense of self, this new identity, this new authority that you're bringing into the world. The third house also rules neighbors, siblings, the people around you, cousins, skills, and learning as well. So this could mean that over the next 8 years, there are some massive disruptions and breakthroughs surrounding where you are. Like, I could totally see this as you guys wanting to get out of your day-to-day, or somehow make your day-to-day more Uranian in nature. So maybe you're wanting to get more into technology, or yeah, bring about some of those like Uranian, maybe use AI more to get some things done, which I'm not fully against, but I do think like we should maybe have some boundaries around that, especially if it's creative work that you're wanting to work on. There's a sense that maybe your siblings, neighbors, or cousins are becoming more Uranian, and they're kind of bringing upon radical change from the outside, and so you're going to have to adjust to that in some way as well. You might be learning Uranian skills. I say Uranian, whatever, whatever comes up. Meaning like learning more about technology, learning more about AI, learning more about astrology, because astrology is actually very Uranian in nature as well. So really, maybe even science, because the thing is science back in the day, as the Greeks knew it, was inherently attuned with mysticism. And now, as we know it, the science of today's age has really just become purely scientific and mathematical, and has no association to the mythical side of life, which is very different than the way it started. But regardless, that's why it can be very scientific, or it can be something more mystical or magical that you're getting into. Your way of speaking to others and communicating can also be going through some sort of a transition in which you are maybe a little bit more visionary in the way that you speak. And I think the biggest thing for you to remember during this time with Saturn in your first and then Uranus in your third is to remember the other person, right? Having Chiron going through your guys' sign for such a long time has really been there to humble you guys for what's coming, which is that you are going to have 2 collective planets in your sign, and there is a lot of emphasis on you guys and what you're doing out in the world. And so make sure that whatever you're saying, whatever you're speaking, whatever you're learning has this essence of humanity built in, and to remain flexible and adaptable to the changes that are happening within your mindset and the way that you're understanding things. You're going to be a lot more open-minded during this time of recognizing like maybe you don't know, you don't have all the answers, and you're wanting to learn more to get the answers that you need. I could see a lot of Aries people getting more into systems like human design and astrology as a way of helping them understand the world and positioning themselves as an authority in some sense. Let's see if there's anything else I want to say for you guys. There could be like a lot of changes in your day-to-day. So the 3rd house is your immediate environment, like I said. But a lot of times this is also like short distance travel. So you could be doing a lot of short distance travel. Now this is a long-term transit. So mostly it'll get activated when there's something that it's touching in your personal chart specifically, or there's a massive massive aspect that's happening collectively that is going to bring up this Uranian energy. Those would be the times to look out for. And obviously we'll talk about those as they come up so you can be aware of them and what's happening in the world. But regardless, that is what I see for you guys. Let me know how this resonates for you guys. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Taurus, Sun, Moon, and Rising. You guys have Uranus moving from your 1st house to your 2nd. So Uranus spent many years working on you. So if you look back to like 2018 and versus 2025, your way, especially if you're Taurus rising, if you're Taurus sun, it'd be more career possibly, and then Taurus moon is probably going to be more internally, your emotional state and how you relate to things emotionally. But especially for Taurus risings, the way you look is probably radically different. If you think back to 7 years ago, you would have never thought that you looked this way, or you had this identity. Maybe you went from like, I don't know, a preacher to like a normal non-preacher, or like, you know, it's like usually a massive shift that's happening, especially one that's meant to break you open from constraints. So what if you were in an identity that felt like it was constraining you in some way, or an emotional identity or whatever, or a career identity, that's what it was trying to break you out of. It was trying to open you up to that. Now Uranus is moving into your 2nd house, which is your money, your self-worth, your values, self-esteem, resources. So now it's going to change the way you make money. So for a lot of you guys, like, okay, we'll just use this example again. You're a preacher and now you're a YouTuber that creates paintings, okay? Well, now that identity change is not just about your identity change, or maybe you became a painter. And now during this transit, you are going on YouTube, or you're selling your paintings, and now you've changed the way you make money. And ultimately at the root of this is about your values, your self-worth. So there is a current that is undergoing your self-value and self-worth. Maybe you're the way I can see this is actually your values are changing to become more broad-minded, to become more visionary, and less so on a one-to-one level. One of the things that is interesting when I talk about like earth and water signs and Uranus, they're very different energies, right? Taurus is a cuddly sign, even though they don't like love everyone touching them, but generally you guys are tactile with the people that you love, you know, to a certain degree. Everyone's different, right? This general reading. And Uranus is like, screw that, screw the people. We need to fix the collective. We need to figure out what's best for everybody. And Taurus is a little bit put off by that kind of energy sometimes. Like, no, like we need to also make sure that we're taking care of people and remain grounded and all these things. And so Uranus coming here could have you like having massive changes in the way that you make money. And if you are making a ton of money, it could be that like you go through periods of making no money, like a lot of radical, shocking disruption to your resources. And this could be like kind of up and down because it's a long cycle, of course. But I think the reason for this is that ultimately what it's trying to do is have you create a self-worth that is also adaptable and flexible, that's not reliant on how much money you're making or not making or how you're making money, but is reliant on something deeper. Like your values are becoming more open, they're becoming more broad, they're becoming more innovative, right? Like you could be thinking of really cool ways to make money, like different ways of making money that you never thought you would do before. And Uranus is going to be sextiling Saturn and Neptune in your 12th house. So these are hidden. Both of these areas you can't directly see from your first house. So these are changes that you're going to be feeling kind of like a little bit it's out of your control, but maybe that's exactly what you need. Yeah. So Saturn and Neptune in the 12th, sextiling this, says that whatever is going on in the external world around your money values and the ever-changing value systems and your sense of self-worth is actually being supported by a deep unconscious or subconscious process in which you are eliminating old beliefs and renewing and starting afresh with the beliefs and the subconscious beliefs that are here to support you from a very deep level that is not even maybe, like the 12th house to me is universal support. So it's almost like you're being guided by something greater than this. And in order for that to happen, you're going to have to change your ways of making money. Maybe there's going to be more communication in the way that you make money. That's somehow something with technology. Maybe you're wanting to work with AI more to help you make money. Maybe you're wanting to get on the internet to make money. Maybe you're wanting to use astrology or use systems, because Aquarius in some ways rules systems, especially like magical or occult systems, but also scientific. So like AI, technological systems, courses, whatever, in order to have a system for you to make money. So it's really about expanding your idea of how you can make money and remaining adaptable and curious with all the changes that are happening in your financial status and in your value system. So when you get through with this transit, I think you're going to look back and say like, wow, I can't believe I used to value making a ton of money over creating connection. You know, like it's very much going to be something like that. Like, wow, I can't believe that that's something that I valued. And I think you're going to look back and say, wow, the way that I make money is so different to what I thought. And the thing about Uranus is that it's shocking. It comes out, it's like eruption out of the unconscious. And so a lot of times we can't even predict how this could possibly come out. And we have to really, like I say, stay adaptable. And you guys this is going to actually create some rebellion in the way you make money. So maybe you're rebelling against certain systems that you used to adhere to. But regardless, you're going to look back in 7 years and be like, wow, this is such a big change. And I would tell you to remain grounded as a Taurus. That's something that you like to do anyway. So Taurus, let me know how this resonates for you guys. Please make sure to like and subscribe. If you'd like to work with me, I'll have a link in the description box below. Otherwise, I will see you guys next time. Gemini, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Wow, this is going to be so electrifying. You guys, and depending on if you're Sun, Moon, Rising, this is going to feel differently, obviously, especially if you're rising. When you look back in 2033, after Uranus moves out of the sign, you're going to look totally different. You're going to have a totally different vibe to you. You're going to have a completely different identity. Like it's going to be hard to, I was telling Taurus in the last video or in the last all signs how for them that was what they were going through, and like looking back and seeing like, maybe I use this example, so I'm just going to use it again to preserve mental energy, is like maybe you're a priest and now you're like a painter. Like it's just a complete different change in identity. And this is the process that you guys are beginning. And when a collective planet goes into your sign, it really tells you that like things that come naturally to you, which is like perception, communication, learning, writing, all these things that Geminis are so good at, thinking, right? Mindset, all of these things is going to become really important as a way of innovation, rebellion, uniqueness. So my advice to you guys is to say what's on your mind, right? And with Saturn and Neptune sextiling this from your 11th house, it's telling me there's a community out there for you, waiting for you to say those evocative things that you were scared to say before. I was recently talking to someone, to a friend of mine, and she was saying how at one of Linda Goodman's seminars, she asked like how many Geminis are at the seminar, and like 2 people raised their hand, and she talked about how like Geminis have a hard time desiring to be seen. Like they kind of would rather just kind of be in the background. And I think this is very counterintuitive to what a lot of people say about Gemini people and in society, about how we're just like always want to be the center of attention. It's like, no, not really. Not really. I mean, obviously it really depends on your chart, but I'm a Leo rising and I'm still like, you know, like I'm like, I don't want to be the center of attention. So at least not in big groups like that. But there's a community waiting for you to speak your truth, to say what you have to say in the ways that you want to say it. One thing I will say, like I mentioned in the first part of this video, that Uranus will have this tendency to forget the humanity aspect, because it's like, oh, I'm having so many ideas. There's these electrifying thoughts, and oh my God, like there's a vision here. Don't forget that when you implement that vision, real people are affected. That's my number one thing, okay? Because you guys are already adaptable, you're already flexible. You don't need me to tell you that as much, but don't get too lost in the vision that you forget that there are real people in your community that are affected by what you're saying. Because as Gemini, we do have this tendency to get so, like, it's so easy for us to just get caught up in the mind and to kind of lose our footing. And I mentioned in this first part of the video too, that like this can wreak kind of a havoc on our nervous system, especially because Geminis generally have a very sensitive nervous system anyways. So very, very, very important for you to remain grounded, and possibly working with somebody, whether if that's like a professional or just somebody in your life who has the ability to keep you really grounded, to make sure that you are having like one foot on the ground, because it is just very likely that you're going to, there's so much positivity in the fact that you're going to be speaking your truth, and you're going to be kind of like the face of rebellion in some sense, like, and innovation and uniqueness. People are going to look at you, and the more that you showcase yourself out in the world, the more that people are going to say, yes, this is the way that change is moving. It's like this person is saying it. And also recognizing that we can kind of get carried away in that and get lost in that mental realm. So that's my biggest advice for you guys, is to just really go with the punches and don't hold yourself back. And also recognize that real people are affected by what you're saying. And here's the thing, with Saturn in your 11th, there is a community out there for you, yes, but I feel like what's going to happen for some of you guys, this is a general reading obviously, that when you start speaking your truth, you're going to start alienating the people in your current communities that are not in alignment with you. And Uranus is asking, like, can you do it anyway? Like, can you have the foresight to know that this vision that you're working toward is worth it, right? That the disruption that you're bringing to communities is what you need. And if certain people fall away, it's just because they weren't the correct people for you anyway. So having faith in that and having trust in what you're saying and how you're doing things is going to be very, very important. So Gemini, please make sure to like and subscribe if you like my content. Please make sure to, join this community. If you want to work with me, I'll have my link in the description down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Cancer, Sun, Moon, and Rising. You guys have Uranus moving into your 12th house. The 12th house is solitude, meditation, spirituality. This is your dreams, your subconscious, your self-undoing patterns, long distance travel, retreats, things like that. So when Uranus comes in your 12th, and as a Gemini sun, so a little bit different, but as a Gemini sun, I just recently had this, and it's quite interesting. It's quite interesting. I definitely think that it opens you up spiritually, because what Uranus is doing is it's kind of breaking you out of rigid patterns, right? And so for you guys, it's in your spirituality and your belief in something greater than yourself, your belief in the universe and the collective and in spirit. This is a house of closure, grief, and endings as well. So for you guys, I think this is, in my opinion, you have Uranus, which is like the Great Awakener, moving into a 12th house, which is the ultimate liberation, the moksha house of ultimate liberation from understanding that we are completely free in spirit. And so those two coming together is like, oh man, like it has the ability, especially if you're Cancer rising, but even from sun and moon too, it has the ability to really open you up in ways that you never thought possible spiritually. And if you're not a spiritual person, which I don't think that you're not because you're watching my video, but if you're not a spiritual person, then it's just going to really make you want to disrupt your day-to-day, but it's going to be very unconscious for you because it's in your 12th house. Like you don't see it. This is hidden from you. So it's really erupting from the unconscious, and it could be coming through dreams. Like, watch your dreams. Keep a dream journal during this time because you could get really, really enlightening messages through your dreams. That's the way that your Uranus is going to be contacting you, is through the subconscious. So dreams, hypnotherapy, ways in which you can kind of release your conscious awareness so that something can arise. That's when Uranus will be speaking to you the most. And for you guys, I feel like there's going to be an element of relational issues coming up to be dissolved and renewed. And you're going to have a renewed sense of faith regarding emotional connections with other people. Uranus in your 12th can also be a time where you're just subconsciously drawn to things like astrology, to things like tarot, to things that are these occult systems or magical systems. And in your 12th house, you may just not realize where that's coming from, or it's like something that's deepening very much so. Now, this will be sextiling Saturn and Neptune in your 10th, which is really about carving out a very structured yet spiritual path for yourself in your career, which can also lead to some confusion sometimes. But Saturn and Neptune are squaring your ascendant, of course, but they're sextile Uranus in Gemini. So they're kind of working together. So there's something about your career that's changing, and this has to do with this revolution that's happening in your 12th house, in your subconscious. It's almost like the changes that are happening very deep inside of you, and these messages that you're getting are helping you shape your career, your legacy, your public status, your public life. So it's going to feel very, very important for you guys to listen to these messages. You may feel drawn to exploring the world more, like long distance travel may be more appealing for you guys because you may get some messages that way as well, or in places of solitude. So meditation, going on retreats, you know, this naturally rules like hospitals and prisons. Hopefully you won't have to do that to get the messages, but you know what? Life happens sometimes. I don't know. Yeah, I feel like this is going to be a very liberating experience for you guys. So Cancers, let me know how this resonates for you guys. Please make sure to like and subscribe. If you'd like to work with me, I'll have the link in the description box below, and I'll see you guys next time. Leo, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Uranus is moving into your 11th house and is forming a sextile with you guys. So this is going to be nice for you. Your 11th house is about your communities. It's the internet, and it's your hopes and visions for the future. It's money that you make from your career. It is your social network, benefactors, groups, clubs. Uranus moving here is like, okay, Uranus was in your 10th house. It was creating all this shakeup in your career and your public status and your reputation, your legacy. Now it's moving into your 11th, and it's saying like, okay, now we got to shake up the people that we associate with, our social networks, to find the communities that really help us become the person, or allow us to become the person that we wanted to be, that liberate us. So for a lot of you guys, this could look like letting go of old networks, right? Letting go of old organizations that you worked for too, because the 11th house is organizations. It's also humanitarian causes. So maybe you're taking up new humanitarian causes. There's new activism that's being stirred inside of you to talk about, to speak about, right? This is a talkative sign that it's moving into in the 11th house. And for a lot of you guys, this could have something to do with working with other people in a new way. So it could be that you're working with people through the internet, finding groups and friends through the internet more. Like I could totally see this being that you're finding this new group that you want to be a part of, or this club or this social network on the internet. And that you could be possibly speaking like an Uranian person on the internet and within these groups. Like you could be that Uranian person talking about these disruptive things that are really disruptive to the system, or talking about shocking insights that you're receiving that maybe other people are like, you know. But really, ultimately, because of this sextile to Saturn and Neptune and Aries in your 9th house, I really feel like this is because you're meant to step into a role of mentorship, of a leader, of a teacher. I've been talking about this a lot, and I just feel like Leos are stepping into this new power this year that they haven't felt for a really long time. I feel like Leos have kind of felt really lost over the last like 10 years. And you're really stepping into something new. This is asking you to, in order to become that mentor, to find your purpose, to find your dharma, right? That's Saturn and Neptune, which may kind of feel like a struggle at times because Saturn being there, or Neptune kind of confusing that area of your life a little bit. But ultimately, it's saying if you want to get to that position, you've got to find the people who are going to support you. And the only way that you're going to find people to support you are if you speak the unique thoughts that you have, this new kind of mindset that's being brought to you. If you speak those things out into the world, then you're going to find the people who are actually going to support you and support your process of becoming this mentor, this teacher, this published author, this professor. Even the 9th house is higher education. So it's kind of working all in your favor. And this could also mean that you're really just drawing in people who are Uranian as well in your network. So Uranus is very much rules like magical systems, like astrology and human design. So you could be drawing in those types of groups to you. It could also mean that your current friend groups, they're going through some sort of Uranus transit, meaning that they're kind of changing and evolving. And that's why maybe you have to choose if you're going to evolve and change with them or not, or vice versa, or whatever. But ultimately, I just feel like this is very, very positive because this is sextiling your sign and you are trine Saturn, Neptune, and Pluto and Aquarius is opposing you. Yes, but at least you're able to see it now. Whereas when Pluto was in Capricorn from 2009-ish to 2024, you couldn't see it. It was an inconjunct. So now at least you can see your enemies. Like you can see them coming. And yeah, the outer planets are much more working in your favor. So Leos, let me know how this resonates for you guys. Make sure to like and subscribe if you'd like to work one-on-one with me to understand how this is affecting you on a personal level. I'll have a link in the description down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Virgo, sun, moon, and rising. You guys have Uranus going into your 10th house, your 10th house of career, public status, reputation, legacy, authority figures, and father. Wow. You guys are entering a new 7-8 year until 2033. You're entering a new time period where your public image is going to radically shift. Your career is going to radically shift. You're going to look back and be like, for example, Uranus in Taurus was in my 10th house. I'm a Leo rising. I started the transit as a pharmacist. I ended it as an astrologer, you know? So it's like very different career sort of situation happening here. This is asking you, and it's very Uranian in nature, right? And for a lot of you guys, I see this being some sort of communication, writing, speaking, learning, teaching, something like that, because Gemini is obviously rules those things. So I kind of feel like there's a sense that a lot of Virgo people are coming out of their shells a little bit, you know? You guys tend to be a little bit more introverted, even if you're not, I don't like to say they're shy because a lot of Virgos aren't shy, but tend to be a little bit more introverted for sure. And I feel like the universe is asking you to come out, but it's a square, right? So this is really prominent for you guys, but I also feel like it might feel kind of difficult because of that tension from Gemini. It's like, well, I don't want to, like, from your first house, right? From your first house of Virgo, it's like, well, I don't want to change. Like, I don't want to be that person who's viewed like that or whatever. But the thing about Uranus is like, he's gonna he's gonna make things change. How much are you willing to let that consciousness enter into your space, into your mind? Or are you going to resist it until like you've been suffering for so long? Because when Uranus comes in the 10th, it just says, hey, there's something about your status that needs an awakening, that needs a higher level of consciousness. And I'm going to give that to you. And it's going to be a very public process because it's in the 10th house. So people are going to see you differently. And yes, this could be even a change of status, like you're going from working to retired, or retired to working again, or something like that. And then you've got this sextiling Saturn and Neptune in your 8th, which I've talked about Saturn in the 8th. I haven't talked about Neptune yet, but I plan on doing that as well. As you know, these planets are going to go forward and then go back into their old sign. So we have a lot of time to work with this energy. This is kind of giving you, I plan on doing a lot of videos on Uranus and Gemini. So this is just to kind of ease you guys into what the changes are that are coming your way. But the sextile from the 8th says that there's some sort of trust, intimacy, maybe even shared resources that you're having to rely on to help this new vision of yourself come to light with your career. Like maybe you are having to learn to lean on other people for support in order to do this calling that Uranus in the 10th house wants to ask of you. And yeah, or it could even be like you're having to borrow money, but with Saturn there, sometimes it feels like the support isn't there, even whether that's financial or emotional. And so you kind of feel like you're doing it on your own. And this is going to fortify your strength of self. And it's going to, once you do that, then Saturn eases his grip and like allows more support to come your way. He just doesn't want you to be dependent on it, right? We've talked about this at length, but I just want to show how this 8th house thing, other people's money, other people's support is going to somehow be feeding into your career, and maybe even the other way around. So the changes that you're making in your career is that so you can be more emotionally supportive or financially supportive to the people in your close inner circle. So Virgos, let me know how this resonates for you guys. Please make sure to like and subscribe if you like my content. And if you'd like to work with me one-on-one, I'll have the link in the description below, and I'll see you guys next time. Libra, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Uranus moving into your 9th house and into Gemini is going to be really helpful for you guys because this is a fellow air sign, so it's going to trine your sign, and he's moving into your 9th house. This is a house about beliefs, long distance travel, publishing, mentorship, teaching. This is about finding truth and purpose in the world, your philosophy on life. Yeah, this is going to be amazing in helping you break any sort of conventional beliefs that you've had that have been holding you back, especially regarding relationships and other people, because this is sextiling Saturn and Neptune in your 7th house. So this is a new way of communicating. I could see a lot of you guys, obviously this is general reading, but I could see a lot of you guys teaching something or in some way working with other people, but in a way that puts you in the position of like a mentor. Like you could be becoming a mentor because Gemini likes to speak, and it's in the house of teaching and making that sextile to your 7th house. So this could really honestly be like you becoming a mentor. And this is a long transit, right? This is 8 years. So you really have to see when this comes up in your own chart, or, you know, through a reading, or if you can track it yourself, when you're having a transit coming around this, that this could be activated. And Uranus is kind of these breakthroughs from our subconscious that come out of a seemingly nowhere. So when we least expect it, and all we can really do, honestly, with Uranus is to remain adaptable, remain flexible, and make sure that, you know, I'm saying this for everybody, and I talked about this in the first part of the video, that the one thing about Uranus, especially in Gemini, is that it can become very heady and the mind can kind of take over, and this can become problematic only because, especially as a Libra rising, there does tend to be some mental tension anyway, just as an air sign, and because you guys are really good at weighing facts and different facts and different options. And with this airy energy, it could be like putting you in the head a lot. So make sure that you're grounding down into your day-to-day routines and not taking the vision so wide and so far that you're not actually doing anything with it. Like, make sure that, I just keep thinking, like, make sure that you're actually integrating knowledge, because the 9th house is about knowledge too, higher education, higher knowledge, philosophy, all these things. So maybe you're going on a quest to learn about something, some of those things, and yet are you still integrating it into your day-to-day rather than having this like big vision for the future and then not really being able to actually integrate that into your day-to-day life. Uranus for you guys actually rules your 5th house. So there is an element of creativity here, of self-expression that you could be teaching about, something that you're really passionate about, something that it brings a lot of joy and pleasure to you, or something that was that is a creative hobby or a creative business. You're wanting to take it into the next level. So where you would be wanting to be a teacher or a mentor or something like that. And you could possibly be going to school to learn those things, or going to, although when Uranus goes through the 9th, it's just uncommon. Like if Saturn goes through the 9th, it's more likely you're going to go to school, like traditional school. Uranus in the 9th makes me feel like you're going to forego traditional methods of learning and maybe get your own mentorship from somebody who is quite Uranian. That could be something as well. Or you are wanting to take courses in a way that's less formal than traditional schooling would be, something like that. I definitely see, because Uranus is rebellion, right? It's unconventional. So you could be an unconventional mentor, or you could be getting an unconventional mentor, things like that. Ultimately, like I said, with that sextile to Saturn and Neptune in your 7th, there is an element of working with another person one-on-one, whether if you're getting mentorship or you're being the mentor. These two things are kind of working hand in hand. There's something about you teaching someone, or someone teaching something to you in a one-on-one setting that's going to be really, really powerful for you over the next 8 years. But ultimately, like I said, because this is a trine to your sign, I think this is going to be a very lovely transit for you guys for the next 8 years, as long as you remain open and adaptable and willing to go against the conventions regarding those ninth house things and your belief systems, while maintaining some sort of groundedness in whatever you're doing. So Libras, let me know how this resonates for you guys. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. And if you want to work with me, I'll have my link in the comments down below, or in the description box down below. I'll see you guys next time. Scorpio, sun, moon, and rising. You have Uranus moving into your 8th house, moving on from your 7th house, where there's a lot of disruption around your relationships with other people, possibly a long-term partner or long-term partners, because it was a long transit, right? 7 years, and it's going to be in Gemini until 2033. So about 8 years that you're going to have Uranus in your 8th. Now, the 8th house is psychological healing, it's transformation, it is intimacy, the give and take, the karmic give and take in relationships as well, shared resources, secrets, addictions. Did I already say addictions? There's a lot going on here. So Uranus coming into this part of your chart, if you are in an established bond, deep emotional bond, they may be going through some sort of a Uranus feeling, like they want to break free and have a lot more freedom in their lives, or kind of become more unconventional. Or maybe someone during this 8-year transit that you meet is going to have that kind of feel to them, going to be more Aquarian-like, or just Uranian in general, kind of unconventional, outside of the system, rebellious, even innovative. But speaking as even for you, I feel like there are going to be changes around your shared resources and other people's money. So this could look like investing money in unconventional ways. Maybe you're wanting to invest in some sort of technology, or I don't know, like some sort of stock that maybe you had never thought about investing in before. You're really thinking outside of the box when it comes to, how do I make money in a way that's like more passive? Because the 8th house isn't always the money that you earn directly. It a lot of times is like shared resources or other people's money. So maybe you're thinking about, like, how do I increase my net worth or my money by utilizing or leveraging other people's money? Those are things that could be coming up. And this could even come through like something like a divorce, or somebody leaving you money in a will or something like that, where it's like really unexpected. And yeah, it definitely brings a lot of unexpected changes, a lot more ups and downs in this part of your chart. You could also be desiring to increase communication with emotional bonds that you currently have in your life, or that you make during this time, because this is the sign of Gemini, Uranus coming here. Maybe you're even just like really thinking outside the box around how to make money and ways to, and really, like, when I think about the 8th house, this is the house of psychological healing. So maybe you're actually partaking in unconventional healing methods to help you with psychological healing, things that maybe people around you might not, especially like the way I think about this for you guys is maybe your family would not approve, or somebody from your home would not approve. Maybe it's a partner, maybe it's someone that you live with, your parents, something like that. I could see them being like distrustful of what you're doing because it's so kind of out of the box when it comes to money and intimacy. And if you are in intimate bonds, Uranus always kind of wants some detachment. So maybe you're able to see your emotional bonds from, and the desire to be intimate from, a more detached perspective, which can actually be quite helpful for you guys as my intense Scorpio people, that you're wanting more freedom in your intimate relationships. And like I said, this can be really, really good for you guys. This Uranus is going to be sextiling Saturn and Neptune, and this sextile is happening from your 6th. So this is what I'm saying. I feel like maybe your work is changing, because Saturn and Neptune in the 6th definitely bring about a different type of work. Neptune in the 6th can make it more spiritual or service oriented, and Saturn in the 6th is just about working hard and being responsible and being of service. So maybe you're thinking about, how do I find a job in which I get like passive income? Or how do I work hard right now so that I can somehow build that passive income? For some reason, I'm hearing a lot of things about money for you guys. I'm even hearing, like, maybe for some of you guys, obviously very general readings, real estate as a way of passive income. I don't know. Yeah, these two things are flowing together. So it's like you're willing to work hard for whatever it is that Uranus is wanting to bring to you. And it can also be, like I said, intimacy, something changing, transforming in your home life. So obviously, like I said, this is a long transit, and so you have to look at other aspects that are happening throughout the transit, but definitely something that's transforming in your family. So whether that's your family that you grew up with or the people you're living with now, and your emotional foundations, going through massive transformations in really unconventional ways. You're seeking out different ways of doing those transformations and that psychological healing. So Scorpios, let me know how this resonates for you guys. Make sure to like and subscribe. If you want to work with me, I'll have the link in the description box below, and I'll see you guys next time. Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Well, Uranus is opposing you guys. Uranus is going into your 7th house. This is amazing because when Uranus goes into your 7th house, this brings an unconventional attitude towards your relationships. Now, this is a long transit, 2033. So obviously we've got to really look at like certain transits that are happening within that 8 years. But what I can tell you is that wherever Uranus goes, he does not allow it to stay the same. There is liberation, there is awakening, there is freedom that is coming to your partnerships. Now, this could look like a partner being very Uranian in nature, and so wanting a lot of freedom. If you are already partnered or you meet somebody, it could be someone who's very Uranian, wanting that detachment, that rebellious, innovative kind of streak, unpredictable, and or your relationships take on that quality. And so after the 8 years, you're going to notice that your relationships and the way you relate to other people is completely different. So it's really interesting when Uranus goes through the 7th. I notice this a lot coming up when there are like your relationships that may have been stable kind of take on a more unpredictable fashion. And depending on the rest of your chart, this may or may not be exciting for you guys, because Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius. Aquarius and Sagittarius, they both like freedom in different ways. So it might be okay for you guys to have that unpredictability. It might be easier for you guys than maybe other signs would have to deal with these kinds of transits. I think you guys will handle it better. And I think for you guys specifically, you're really wanting to communicate more in your relationships and really make sure that that aspect is on point. And if you have that, then the freedom is easier for you to handle. If you know that you guys communicate well and there is open communication, then you're open to letting that partner or yourself or whatever have the freedom that they need, right? And kind of have that detachment. Now, the 7th house is always reflecting back to us as well. So it could be that if you're attracting really unpredictable situations, or your relationships are going through these really big ups and downs constantly, and it's like actually really difficult for you, it could be that it's trying to relate something back to you about your desire for control, your desire for attachment, and asking you to kind of loosen the grips there a little bit. But the thing is with Uranus, you really never know what to expect. All I can say is that your relationships, your one-on-one relationships, and your interpersonal skills and dynamics are going to be radically different by the time this transit is done here. This is going to be sextiling Saturn and Neptune in your 5th. So this is, yeah, I really feel this element of like romance and love coming into play here, but also self-expression and giving yourself the freedom to be you and to really kind of work hard on building your own sense of self-expression, and maybe taking away some of that attachment to partnerships or other people, or that clinging that you have. And the 7th house is also clients too. So it could be that you're working one-on-one with clients in a Uranian sort of thing, which could be astrology. Your Uranus rules like magical systems and occult systems. So astrology, tarot, or any other, it could even be science, I guess, as well. But that's because science really used to have more of a mystical underpinning, but it doesn't really anymore. But yeah, it could be science, in a science field that you're relating with people. But ultimately, there is a sense that this new unconventional way of dealing with other people is somehow being supported by, or supportive of, your own sense of authority when it comes to how you express yourself in the world, and who you are becoming, and the things that you are choosing to do creatively in the world. They're kind of working together. So for a lot of you guys, it could be some sort of creative entrepreneurial venture that you're going on that involves working with people in a Uranian setting, something like that. Or it could just be that, yeah, like your love nature, because the 5th house is love and romance and joy, is going through this really maturing process and spiritualizing process as well, with Neptune there. And therefore you're able to handle the demands of Uranus in the 7th better. So Sagittarius, let me know how this resonates for you guys. Please like and subscribe. If you'd like to work with me, I'll have the link in the description box below, and I'll see you guys next time. Capricorn, Sun, Moon, and Rising. You guys have Uranus moving into your 6th house. The 6th house is about work. It's about pets, service, duty, daily responsibilities, conflict. This is a place of unequal partnerships as well. Hard work. What you're willing to sacrifice for is in the 6th house. Your health and illness as well. I would say more illness than health, but it can rule like diet and things like that, like how you take care of your mind and body. So Uranus coming here tells me a few things. One is that obviously this is a long transit, so we have to look at other transits throughout the 8 years that Uranus is here to see when these things would come up for you, and it's very specific to your chart and your timing and your degrees and all this stuff. But over the next 8 years, I see a lot of you guys stepping into more unconventional jobs, unconventional work environments, something that may have to do with more communication as well, because Uranus is in Gemini. You may be wanting to, the best thing that I would say for anyone is to remain open-minded around the changes that are happening, the mindset shifts that you're having around how you make money and how what kind of work you do. A lot of you guys can start getting into like some healing modalities too that are different or unconventional than previous. So alternative medicine, I say that because alternative medicine is the true medicine, and allopathic medicine, which is what we see like MDs and DOs, that's the alternative medicine in my opinion, because it's so new. But alternative medicine like homeopathy, or, you know, really Uranus rules these magical systems. So even astrology, using astrology for healing, which is definitely something that you can use astrology for, human design, but still also, yeah, just like homeopathy, naturopathic medicine, I guess, if you're into that. Sorry, that was really judgmental. But yeah, just unconventional is the word here. Innovative, open-minded, liberation, awakening. So these are the things that we think about. And for you guys specifically, it's happening in your 6th house of work too. So once again, it can really look like there is something really changing for your work environment. And you guys, by the end of this 8 years, you may come out of it and have a completely different environment in which you work. And because Uranus rules your 2nd house, it could also be a different way of making money, a completely different way of making money. And your values are changing through you finding these new unconventional ways to heal, to work. This could even be like some of you guys getting into things like yoga, right? Because this is the 6th house of health and healing. And I guess yoga is unconventional in some ways, you know, things like that, where it's not just like going to the doctor and getting your medicine and being done with it. You're definitely being asked to open up, become more unique here, and step out into a role, whether that's in a job or in this healing thing that I'm talking about, that is more unique to you and kind of is being built off of a vision. Now this Uranus is sextiling your ruler, Saturn, sitting with Neptune in your 4th. So these things are kind of going together. I feel like Saturn in the 4th is trying to fortify this inner strength in you to get really courageous in a sense through, fortifying your inner world. That's the best thing that I can think of when I think about that. It's like, it's trying to bring structure to your internal world so that you can really stand in your own sense of authority. And through that, you can step out onto this new Uranus in the 6th house thing, because most Capricorns have a higher degree of conventionality, right? In the beginning of this video, I talked about the relationship between Uranus and Saturn and how Saturn is the son of Uranus. And so there's a really close link here between the two. Not necessarily the best relationship mythologically, but regardless, you know, Saturn tends to want to be conventional in some ways and really go with the tried and true. And Uranus is all about innovation. It's all about rebellion. So you're being asked to, especially when it comes to work and service and duties and responsibilities, kind of break free from conventions and the tried and true. And in order to do that, you're having to build up something very strong internally with your emotional foundations. Really make sure that your internal world and your home life and your family life feels good and secure so that you can feel supported and secure enough to make these changes in your 6th house. So Capricorns, let me know how this resonates for you guys. Please make sure to like and subscribe if you like my content. And I have a link to book with me if you like to work with me on a one-to-one level. I'll see you guys next time. Aquarius, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Your ruler is moving into the 5th house. So obviously this is always a big moment for you guys because Uranus is your secondary ruler, right? So when he moves into a new sign every 7 to 8 years, you guys are going through a major shift. Uranus going from Taurus to Gemini is going to really uplift your guys' spirits, in my opinion, because this is a fellow air sign. Uranus in Taurus was squaring you guys, and it's an earth sign. It was in your 4th house. Really a lot of internal emotional changes that you were going through. And now from those internal changes that happen, those destabilizing forces that happen in the home life, within the family life, within your own inner emotional world, are now being brought into a unique self-expression. And so this is much more expressive for you guys. You're able to kind of take what you have learned and really put it out in the world, communicate it. I could see you guys really communicating through some sort of art form. So maybe like writing a book or even like poetry, some sort of communicating through art is what I'm hearing, through some sort of creativity is what I'm sensing, in order to showcase the things that you've been through and how those have culminated into this unique self-expression of yourself. Like I said, this is trying you guys. So this is a really much better time for you guys with Pluto in your sign, and now Saturn and Neptune sextiling you and sextiling Uranus. So really, really powerful shifts happening for Aquarius during this time. And I believe they're very positive for you guys. It feels like you guys have been cocooned for many years. Like I really, it's been opening up the past few months, but when I first started coming on YouTube, it's like when I would access your guys' energy, it felt very hard to access. And I don't feel like that's going to be the way it is anymore. I think you're ready to kind of burst out of that and become more unconventional in, maybe you're an artist and you're changing the way that you do your art and it's becoming more unconventional, or your ways of having joy and pleasure, because the 5th house is joy, it's pleasure, it's entertainment, it's creativity, it's your inner child, right? It's your self-expression, romance, love. So in love and romance, you could be becoming more rebellious and going against the norms, or just becoming more freedom oriented within your romantic bonds and your love relationships, or even the things that you really enjoy doing, like your hobbies, can start becoming more unconventional and be infused with Uranus, which Uranus is astrology, human design, tarot, all these systems that we have in place. They could be kind of playing a bigger role in your life now and how you express yourself. And like I said, Saturn and Neptune are in the 3rd house. So for a lot of you guys, I feel like you're going to be learning new skills in order to do this creative output that I was talking about. This unique way of self-expression is going to require you to gain some skills. And I think you guys are wanting to do that. Like, once again, this is all trines and sextiles. So it's really, you're recognizing the only thing I would say is that when we have trines and sextiles, it can feel too easy and we can just kind of get lazy with it. So come back to this video, listen to me if you need to hear this, that you need new skills. You need to learn new skills. Maybe that's communication skills. Maybe you need to take a course. Maybe there's something that is missing in order for you to use this Uranus in the 5th to its full capacity. And also at the same time, Uranus in the 5th is going to be asking you to get really, really serious about the way that you communicate, your mindset, that if you want to be this unique individual person out in the world, then you've got to learn how to express yourself in a way that is going to showcase that. So maybe it's getting serious. So they're kind of like working together here. So yeah, this is a wonderful shift for you guys. Let me know how this resonates. I'd love to hear your comments down below. If you'd like to work with me one-on-one, I'll have the link in the description, in the description box below as well. And I will see you guys next time. Pisces, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Uranus is going into your guys' 4th house. The 4th house is your inner emotional foundations, your inner world, your private world, your home life, your family life, your parents. There could be some big changes happening in those things. Maybe if you've always had kind of a negative relationship with your parents, things could become shockingly different. It could also be the opposite. The thing about Uranus is that he brings a lot of instability, right? This is not a stable placement. So when Uranus goes here, be ready for a lot of internal changes. And this may sound off the bat kind of negative because this is squaring your guys' sign, right? But I think that's because it's forcing you to grow, right? I mean, I know it is. I know that's what it is. Uranus rules rebellion, being unconventional. This may say that you are having to go against the conventions of your family, of your early childhood, of your social conditioning from a young age, maybe even within your current home life right now, that you're going to have to rebel. You're going to have to get innovative, become unconventional, liberate yourself from any emotional foundations that have been keeping you stuck in the past without and not letting you move forward. And ultimately, as you know, I look at every single transit as and every sign as and house as an opposition. So without anything being in your 10th house, regardless, this is kind of reflecting back to some level of your career and your public status. But it's almost like the changes are very much happening internally and in your private world, but they're somehow connected to you being able to really liberate yourself out into the public world too. So there's a purpose for all of this. even though, and a lot of times when Uranus goes through the 4th house, a lot of people end up moving. A lot of people recognize that the place they're living at currently is not sustainable for where they're trying to go. And they may just feel constrained or restricted. And if you don't, that just means you're in the right place, right? And you may be feeling it with your parents or within your family life. Uranus wants to break free, right? He wants to follow his vision. This could also be like increased communication in private. So with your home, with your parents, within your home life as well, like more communication around really deep emotional subjects too, because the 4th house is our inner emotional foundations. And Uranus moving into Gemini here, yeah, just increases that, that tendency. Sorry, sometimes my mind gets ahead of what I'm saying. So I was just thinking about how this can also be like meeting Uranian people, or bringing more Uranian people into your inner world or into your home life. And they are the ones who kind of can shake something awake in you so that you can get this, whatever needs to happen in the 4th house going. Ultimately, this is a growth period, right? When Uranus is, and it depends on your chart, when Uranus hits your sun or any other placements that you have, it's going to feel more intense than the rest of the time, because once again, this is an 8-year transit. So these things are going to take time. They're going to be inconsistent. Uranus is unexpected breakthroughs for a reason, right? Because there's no real way of knowing like how they're going to come up. They just come up. Why do I always snap with you guys? I feel like I snap with you guys a lot. I don't know. I've said this forever. Whenever I tap into your guys' energy, I feel so silly. I feel so goofy. And I love it. Okay, so Uranus in Gemini is sextiling Saturn and Neptune in your 2nd house. So we've talked about Saturn in your 2nd house, and this is wonderful because it's saying that there's a new way of making money for you, right? And that's going to require those 4th house changes that I was talking about. So either you have to move, either you have to become more unconventional in your inner emotional foundations, find more detachment in your emotions so that you're able to make money in a new way. And at the same time, what you're doing, all these changes that are happening in your 4th house are somehow supporting you making money in a new way. Maybe for a lot of you guys, I could see this being spiritual, right? Because Neptune going through the 2nd, yes, sometimes it can mean a dissolving of finances, but what I see that to be is more so that you are dissolving one way of making money in order to find another one that is more aligned spiritually for you. And then of course, Saturn always brings alignment through lessons and pain. So if you'll know if with the work that you're doing, the money that you're making is no longer working for you. And when you start doing that inner work with Uranus, it's going to help you understand where that energy of the money needs to go, and kind of vice versa. So the more you start building or thinking about how you want to build your value, how you want to make money, the more that you realize, oh, I think I've got to change something really deep inside of me. Uranus for you guys, yeah, rules the 12th house. That's what I'm saying. Like the 12th house ruler going into the 4th, a lot of subconscious stuff that you're going to have to you're gonna have to deal with around your inner, your early childhood upbringing. I feel like those subconscious themes have actually maybe held you back more than you realized, and they're kind of coming to the forefront. And with Uranus in the 4th, you're gonna be able to have a little bit more detachment from them and be able to view them. And in that sense, when you can get a detachment from them, then you can see, oh, this is why I've been doing this. Oh, this is why I've been feeling stuck. This is what I need to do in order to make money in a more aligned way and be who I need to be in a more aligned way. So Pisces, let me know how this resonates for you guys. Make sure to like and subscribe. If you'd like to work with me, I have my link in the description box below, and I'll see you guys next time.